Hello and welcome to another episode of our podcast FX Refreshed, where each time we catch up with industry professionals from the world of supply chain. Today we catch up with Kenneth Carter III from Ameriton Freight Logistics, where we talk about everything from stepping into the wrong side of the law, the lessons learned from that, and subsequently building a business. Hope you enjoy. Why don't we just crack on and dive in, if I may? Thank you for taking the time to join with us today. We caught up a couple of weeks back, and then we tried to get this show on the road last week, and you were suffering big time with some allergies. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling great today.
Yeah, you're looking incredibly handsome. So you were then. Let me just caveat that as well.
Thanks.
Despite
You
despite the
cleared that up
emotional
real
waterfall.
quick.
Yeah. Dude, I've been in sales for 30 odd years. Like, I got to think on my feet, right? So
I can tell.
that's what it's about. So, Ameriton Freight and Logistics. Tell us a little bit.
Ameriton.
Ameriton. I do apologize. Ameriton.
I always tell people we're not Transformers.
That would be a nice thing to be. I mean, you're kind of like out there being a superhero anyway. So it kind of would make it would make sense. Ameriton Freight and Logistics. My apologies, that was a slip of the tongue. We'll dive in to some detail about the how, the why, the when, the where, and what's happening, et cetera, et cetera. But maybe just give us a little bit of a sneak preview, if you will. Like what led you into starting the company? Maybe give us a little bit of background about yourself, and then from there we'll start picking away and diving deeper, if you're cool with that.
Definitely cool with that. So I guess the how or the why. Pretty much I realized that I needed to have some type of potential. The life I was living wasn't really potential based, it wasn't even future based, it was day for day. And that led me down a crazy road where I ended up doing some time, 2.5 years. And while being incarcerated, I realized I need to have something. You can't live this everyday life, this day for day life. It's just it eats at you every day, and you do want to try to change, but you don't change.
Yeah.
Until something's finally forced you to change, and going to prison was that force. And once I was in there, 2 or 3 months in, I realized that I needed to do something different so I wouldn't be like everyone else in there. And of course, everyone's in there for something different, but at the end of the day, we're all looked at the same. Your crime could be small, your crime could be large. They look at you as an inmate or a prisoner, and that's it.
Right.
And that's when I changed right there. I was like, you know what? I have to change my train of thought. I have to change my outlook on life. And I just have to change overall.
Right.
So that's where the company started from, just grinding, the being around the negative environment for so long, and realizing that I can do something better and I have more potential.
So that's fantastic. So, I mean, did you have any help or guidance or assistance in like coming to, I guess, coming to terms with wanting to do something, and then either having somebody help you like make that decision? Okay, I'm going to move into the supply chain, the logistics world. And then once you'd made that decision, like, did you have any help and guidance? Do you have any mentors that helped you along the way?
Well, no, not when I started. It was pretty much just raw information, no internet. I went back I was back in the 80s again, the 90s, where there is no internet, there's just paper. But that's what made it so good. I can get that raw information. I'm not inundated with so much information that I cannot process it. So I'm just starting off from scratch, and my ideas are just on paper, and that's how it starts. That
Right.
it's that true process of thinking.
Right. So what was it that led to not so much starting your own business, but this particular type of business? I mean, there's hundreds of thousands more that you could have potentially done. Why logistics specifically?
Well, because my background is in transportation.
Right.
So I joined the military right out of high school, immediately as a truck driver. My mom was a truck driver, heard the stories, I wanted to do it. So when I got into truck driving, it was very peaceful. And I actually just got off the phone with a buddy, and he was telling me how he just started and he loves the free time. And it does, it helps you think. So starting in the trucking industry, and then I got out of the military and I continued to drive. And that's just something I always wanted to do. And then once I went to prison, there was talk about not having the CDL again, having a felony and not being able to drive trucks. And that scared me. And so from there, I was like, you know what? I'm going to find a new way. I'm not going to just sit here and give up and switch industries. I'm going to find an industry that's going to help me stay in the transportation field. And that's when the brokerage came about.
Right. Wow. So, so the whole trucking thing, like I've spoken to a few guys or a few folks, should I say, over the course of the last bunch of months. And I've got this newfound admiration for anybody that is prepared to and can sit in a cab for an extended period of time. Like, and where I suppose where that's come from really is when we first moved to the US. My wife's actually from the States, and she was living in Charlotte, North Carolina at the time. And so when she moved to the UK, a lot of her stuff was put in a lockup in Charlotte. And I thought, how fun would that be if I fly down to Charlotte from here, Boston, and then rent a truck and drive all of the stuff back? Now, many people that I've spoken to that are professionals and in the industry, they're like, yeah, that's just a short hop. Like, we'd just do that in our sleep. Dude, like 40 minutes into that journey, I'm chowing down on anything that's got sugar in it just to keep me awake. Like, I'm pulling over at every single rest stop. I just didn't have the mindset to be able to do it. So like anybody that's in that particular field, man alive, like, it's like complete admiration from me. So yeah, like I'm a big fan. So sticking along those lines, well, actually, you know what? You brought up the whole prison thing, and I'm in an R-ing whether that was a route that we might go down. And I feel like I want to take it down that road if you're comfortable with that. Not to get too personal specifically, but the reason why is almost because you could be that role model, if you will, that role model to others, and that you are testament to the fact that there is life after prison. And although you're in a very dark place at this point in time, not you specifically, but if you're incarcerated, you might be in a very dark and bleak place. But there is, even if it's a pinhole of light at the end of the tunnel, there is something, and you have proven that you can do it. So I feel like it is worth something that we should specifically maybe talk about. And if you are comfortable, would you like to maybe explain what might have led up to that, or
Oh yeah,
we can gloss all over that and just move straight on?
no, glossing over won't help the motivation. You have to really hear and witness what I went through and what led me to there, and also what got me past it. So no problems at all. It started with drinking. It was just drinking on the weekends. Weekends turned to 3-day weekend. 3-day weekend turned to 4-day weekends. 4-day weekend turned to 5, all the way down to 6 weekdays a week. I was drinking, and those are my weekends. I was drinking so much that I ended up quitting my job, and from quitting the job, I started doing coke to balance myself out because somebody told me it would work. The cocaine turned to selling it now because I would rather sell the drugs and not go to work so I can drink more.
Right.
It's very dangerous.
That's a very dangerous combination. Not to glorify, but there's a little bit of entrepreneurship in there, I guess, that might have like been a bit of a base for you to then think about what you're doing today, right?
Yeah, but I've heard that before. Say where you pretty much was the entrepreneur. I just had to switch products.
Right, yeah. But having experienced that has made you the individual that you are today, right? And I'm sure that you would have preferred a different background that would lead to the same results that you have today. But we can't change the past. And as they say, there's a reason why the windshield on a car is bigger than the rear view mirror, right? It's all about looking forward. And that rear view mirror is still important though, because we want to just have a little glance, to the past, just to make sure that we don't necessarily make the same mistakes, that we can learn from what we've done. And I feel like what I see and what I hear and what I read, particularly what you're putting out over LinkedIn, it's all very positive. And you're doing a lot of podcasts, I've noticed as well. So you are talking about your experiences. And you've, like I said earlier on, you've shown it's possible really to come out on top. And here we are today with your own business and with some employees, I'd imagine as well, right?
No, it's a one-man show right now.
It's a one-man show.
Yes.
What's the plans for turning this into a two-person show and then growing beyond that?
Oh, as soon as possible, first of all. But my plans are growing. It's to grow organically. And I like to help people in the industry that don't have the opportunities, because everybody wants experience. But how do you get experience without the experience? Well, I'm here to say, you can start a business or become a broker without that experience, because I've never worked for anybody else as a broker.
Right.
So I've hired people that were inexperienced, but it's a tough game. Commission-based, first of all, was very tough. And being in sales and freight is tough. And so a lot of people have left the company to go back into school or pursue their own careers or something that they have a passion for. But I'm now looking into adding on experienced agents. So I'm building up my back office and all the systems and software that I need to be able to help those people that are experienced. So I plan on growing 2 agents by the end of the year, and it will just grow from there.
Right. That's awesome. So it's not just a case of just creating a company and then just letting it not so much fester, but just seeing where it goes. You've actually created this business plan. You have an idea of where you want to take it. You've got some aspirations of where you want to be in the next 2 to 5 years, I should imagine.
Yes, international freight forwarding.
International freight forwarding. Wow. So, I mean, that's not to piss on your parade by any imagination, but like that's tough, right? I mean, there are hundreds of thousands, well, not hundreds of thousands, but there are thousands of freight forwarders out there right here, right now. How are you feeling with regards to competing with the larger players that are out there, or with the number of competitors that you have out there?
Well, everybody is a competitor in somehow, some way.
Right.
I feel like if this dream that I have, if I want it, then I'm gonna go get it. I don't have that fear of this competitor here, or how big this person is, because I was told before, you can't start a brokerage. You need to go work for somebody else. I have people tell me don't even do it, and this is other freight brokers. Don't do it. I was actually talking about it last night, and if I want something, I'm gonna go get it. So there's no fear about who's out there, because they need to have the fear for me that I'm coming for them.
Right. No, that's a healthy attitude to have, and it's always great to see anybody really starting a business and trying to worm their way into at least creating some kind of market share for themselves, no matter how big or small it is. So kudos to you for that. How are you going about the marketing and prospecting process? How do you find that?
Well, so right now I do a lot of LinkedIn, of course. I do a lot of sales calls, email marketing, a lot of word of mouth is helping out, and just doing a great job. And people, they tell people about it.
Yeah.
So
I think that putting in a good effort and having your clients then refer people back to you is testament to what you're doing, and is kind of, it really does demonstrate that you are trying, you are not just trying, but you are competing with a lot of the players that are out there on an equal footing. So that's awesome. How's this year been for you so far? So we are we're seven months into the 7 months into the year. I almost want to say coming off the back of a pandemic, but if you're paying attention to what's happening in Europe at the moment, there's some more lockdowns taking place there. But how are you finding business this year?
Same way I found it last year. I just grinded. I started during the pandemic, so there's no difference for me. Last year I grossed $1,300. This year I'm at 50,000. So definitely growth. And I don't. The pandemic's there, but for me that's an excuse not to do things and not to grind. Right now it's just me and work that I have to get done. That's it.
Yeah. So you've never known anything else, as you say. So you're starting from an incredibly low base, which is fantastic. But even despite that, it doesn't mean to say that success comes easy, right? So you still have to put the effort in, which is exactly what you're doing now. Can you talk us through a typical day? So what, maybe not necessarily go into like too many details unless you want to, but just give us an idea. Like what is a freight broker really at the end of the day? What are you doing? What are you trying to solve for? How are you helping people out there or businesses out there?
Yeah. So what I'm doing is I'm arranging transportation for clients. So someone says they need something moved from here to here. My job is to help them find out their budget and see what they have that needs moved. Then I find the carrier that's willing to work with that budget, with that type of mode, and within those dates. So I'm building relationships on both ends. A typical day for me is going into the office and first of all checking on my shipments, seeing if everything's going smooth. Once and report that back to my clients. Check in with the carriers, make sure they're happy, they got some good rest, they don't need anything. And from there, I'll do some sales calls. I'll try to find more people that needs help. And typically throughout the day, I'm answering quotes, figuring out what people need, what budgets they have, and where they need things to go to. And my job is ultimately to arrange it the best way possible and to save them money.
Right. Fantastic. So there must be a ton of hurdles that get thrown at you or that just happen to be in the way. I mean, we're talking about an industry where you have machines and you have humans. So there's human error, there's machines that break down. Do you experience that quite a bit or at all?
Yeah, but I ran track in high school, so hurdles are nothing. Every day is a hurdle.
I suppose, yeah, just getting out of bed.
But I love it. So like now my hurdles are finance and accounting and bookkeeping. So I'm working on that. I've never done that before, but I'm doing that for myself. So on top of my finances and bookkeeping, I'm also answering someone's question and they're needing something moved that I've never moved before.
Right, right.
But that opportunity is there and I'm not going to let it go.
So sorry, carry on, mate. Sorry.
No. So I'll continue to work at it until I find a solution for it.
All right. So it's interesting you say that about the accounting piece. So that just reminded me, you're effectively being the one-man band. You are wearing multiple hats, right? So you are the salesperson, the marketing person, the doer, the product manager, the relationship builder, the accountant, the HR person. Like you're all of those things. And so do you feel as though you have to have a certain type of personality trait in order to be disciplined and make sure that you're not focused on too much of one of those areas and that you are equally spreading, or not necessarily equally spreading, but you're focusing on the right amount of time on sales and the right amount of time on admin? Because you could have, you could do a ton of sales, but then if the admin side of it builds up, then everything's going to break down. But you don't want to be spending the whole day doing admin, right? Because then you're not going to find new business. So are you finding that an easy transition?
Yes, I say easy because it's not about the personality trait. Personally, I don't believe. I think it's about the motivation, and my motivation comes from where I was at. And I speak on the prison not to glamify, but to me, it's where I came from. It's like this dark place, and I sat every day at a table writing out plans and saying, this is what I'm going to do. So now that I'm doing it, it's perfect. There are no issues. It's that grind every day. If I feel tired and say, you know what, it's 4 o'clock, I'm going to stop. I think about the time when it was 4 o'clock inside that cell, and I wish I could be doing it. And so now it's like, no, let's go. So I'm very disciplined as far as my hours, 8 to 5, 8 to 6, every day, Monday through Friday. There's times I work on the weekends because I don't have that fun life I used to have. And that fun life led me to nothing. So now if I can go in the office on a Saturday and Sunday, I have no problem doing that.
Well, there's also the work-life balance piece as well. I mean, I mentioned all those different facets that you have to deal with on a day-to-day basis, but then there's squeezing in family time as well.
Yeah.
And so maybe to have that discipline to be able to finish at 5, 6 o'clock in the evening, and not necessarily gravitate towards the back into the home office or the office and start having to look at emails. I know I'm kind of guilty of that. I've been working from home for the last 6 years, and I keep thinking about either having a purpose-built office on the other side of the yard, so that I don't just, like, on my way to make a cup of tea, I have to pass my office. And so it's so easy just to think, you know what, I just want to go in and check a couple of things. And the next thing you know, 3-4 hours have easily gone past. So you feel confident that your discipline around making sure that the family are looked after, but the customers are looked after is manageable?
Yes, definitely. There is a cutoff. 6 o'clock. It was 5. I pushed it back to 6, depending on depending if I have trucks on the road. But I try to stay structured to the point where 8, 9 o'clock, I'm in bed anyways. So I have to cut it off 5, 6 o'clock because I'm waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning. My structure to go to the gym at 5 in the morning is there, but I'm available throughout the day. It's different from going to someone's job to where you're gone for 8 to 10 hours a day. I'm still here. I'm still available. Man, I can come out of the office and say hi to my daughter and spend a few minutes there, and I'm back in it. Or I just relax for about 30 minutes while I don't have any emails to answer. So balance is there, and you need that because, like I said, being in that place before, you wish you had that time. So you got to make sure you take advantage of it.
Yeah. And again, it's such a valuable, this is going to sound really horrible. I don't think it's even going to come out right. And I should really think about it before I say it. But like, there's definitely there's a valuable lesson that's been learned during your time inside, and perpetually drawing on that experience, if you will, and thinking about, it's so easy to make a wrong turn and go back, that it is important to, again, pay attention to, I don't know, what am I trying to say there? Like, it's important to put the effort in, stay on the right side of the law, but put the effort in, and just, build the business as best as you possibly can. And on those days where you find it difficult to get out of bed, you have something which you can draw on, and you use that as your motivator. It's not your kryptonite. It's something that's going to actually push you forward, I guess.
Yes, definitely pushes me. I'm hopping out of bed every day. I don't lie around because that's what it is. Like, then you had nothing to do. I have so much to do now. So I made things to do then, but now I really have stuff to do. So I'm definitely motivated, and it's not going out anytime soon.
Yeah. Well, I love the fact that so we had $13,000 last year. We've now $50,000 so far year to date. We want to have
1,300.
1,300. 13. Well, that is a big difference. My apologies. I am slightly deaf in one ear. 1,300. Holy smokes! Right, so that is a big difference. Now, if we can, if we can keep that momentum going, what's that? So, what's that make you like $1 million worth of turnover in within the next 4 to 7 years? That would be awesome. But we're looking at 2 additional hires by the end of the year, I think you said. So that takes us to the end of 2021. 2022 is just around the corner, quite frankly. How do you see next year shaping up? Is there anything anything that you've done this year that you feel that you could definitely grow on? Is there anything that you didn't get to do this year just because of being far too busy? And is there anything that you're really, that's a must have? Like, yeah, you know, we're going to have this, may not necessarily have it next year, but it's on the horizon. I mean, you mentioned earlier on about you want to be global. So we can come on to that as well, you know, in terms of what does global mean? Which countries are you looking at? Is it you want to be literally global, or you focus on a couple of different routes? I've done what a salesperson should never do, and that's stack questions. So there's about 7 questions in there. If you can remember
I can do about 3 of them. Some
if
of
you
them
could
are
do
pretty
it,
similar.
well, if you could do them all, that'd be great, because I've forgotten 4 of them.
Yeah. If there was a caption, I'll see if I can pause it. But yeah.
Yeah.
So some things that I haven't done that I want to do, get into the dredge, and I've been working on that. So on one of your other questions is what have I've been working on for 2022 is my LTL network that I've been working on. So I've been doing full truckloads, but now I've converted to do more of LTL and smaller shipments. I'm working on now the dredge, get into the ports. Once I get to the ports, then I'm able to get to that next level of that international part. Because once I start touching those ships and those ports, then I just continue to grow, and I'm getting connections there. And then next thing you know, I'm on the ships, and then I can get over to other countries. Right. So I'm working my way backwards. I'm starting with a small trucking guy all the way back to the ocean.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're building that level of experience all the time as well. And I think there's a danger that, well, especially when you start a business yourself, that you want to try and do too much too soon, rather than give yourself the runway that's needed in order to ramp up and be successful. So give yourself that breathing space. Don't try and do everything, because I can almost guarantee that it's rare for that kind of scenario to work. I'm not saying it doesn't work, but like, you know, doing it piecemeal in the way that you are, but at least having that plan laid out, I think is a fantastic lesson for anybody to learn from. So beyond 2022, we're now moving into those realms of 23, 24, 25. International for you then is a global thing. Like you want to have global reach, plenty of corridors to work with, and a significant number of people that are going to be supporting you in that way. Is that a fair assumption of where we want to be?
Yes, get into the imports, exports part of the business. So like my hashtag is everything freight. I want to touch every part of freight that I can. Well, no, I'm sorry. I'm going to touch every part of freight that I can.
Provided the contents is not anything illegal, of course.
No. Scared of that now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, from our perspective, as you know, as money movers, global money movers, you know, we have to be careful that what's inside the container doesn't go bang. For example, being just one of the number of things that we wouldn't want to necessarily touch ourselves. Is there anything in particular? Anything in particular that we haven't covered today that you feel might be worthy that anybody out there listening or watching might benefit from, or you feel like we've covered some good ground?
Well, you can always benefit from that. It's those inspiring words. Just never stop. Keep going. There's never enough stacked against you for you not to do something. It's never.
Right.
It may seem like that in that moment, but it's not. It's just another hurdle, another obstacle, another door, or another window. You just go around it, go through it, or however you got to do to get around it or to get past it, you just do it.
Right. Well, so from your perspective, you have that place that you can draw upon, that's your motivator to go forward. Probably that and a few other things as well, family being one. Like, you want to succeed because we all have bills to pay at the end of the day. Is there any other kind of advice? I mean, you've explained, yes, this is what you need to do. Do you have any advice on how people might be able to draw on some of their own experiences, or like how can we motivate individuals to want to get out of bed if they're feeling in a bit of a dark place themselves?
Yeah. Well, There's an action plan. It's pretty simple. First of all, you need to realize that my rock bottom is not your rock bottom. So you need to identify what your bottom is.
Right.
Don't compare it to anybody else's, just yours. What do you have going for yourself, or what have you lost, and what hurts you deeply? You take that and you hold on to that. And then you get a piece of paper, and you, on two sides of this paper, you put a line down the middle. You put your positive, then your strengths, and your negatives and your weaknesses. Once you start to write a whole list of positives and strengths, you need to jump over to the other side and start realizing what the weaknesses are. Because that's the problem. We don't, looking through our own eyes, we don't look at ourselves as being weak. And so we don't see those weaknesses. But that's what you really have to do, to start identifying what they are and how you can work past them.
Right.
And that's what I've done, especially with the time I've had, writing down those weaknesses and identifying them and being tough. And it's really tough to do that. But once you can be honest with yourself, then you can start changing those things. So that's the action plan. Write down the strengths, write down the weaknesses, and have more weaknesses than you have strengths.
I think that's a very good way of doing it, actually, and a very good way of looking at it. So at least, if you do, getting those positives down on a page will remind you that you are capable, and that there is a skill set that you have, and there are ideas that you have, and that there are good things that you have that can propel you forward. And then, but when you look at the other side of the page, the negative side, not to look at them and dwell on them, but to look at them individually and say, okay, well, how can I change that? How do I make that a positive? So this might be a trait that I don't like. Well, let's see how we can change that. Or this is a skill I don't have. Well, how do I learn it? So have that list, but treat it in a very positive way, right?
Right. But you have to be honest with that negative list. It took me weeks to come up with my negatives, because I at first, oh, there's nothing wrong with me, I'm good. And then I had to really sit down and think, and it was definitely difficult, because it's tough being able to look at yourself in that way. But you have to, because the problem with us as human beings is that we can go and I can tell you about Mark, what Mark likes, what he dislikes, what motivates him. But if Mark asks me what motivates me, then I'm stuck. So I don't
Right.
even know about myself, but I know about other people more, and that has to change.
Yeah. So that issue of not being able to put anything on that negative side of the page, was that because you couldn't see it in yourself, or you could see it but you just didn't want to write it and you didn't want to admit to it? Because once it's out and it's coming out the end of the pen, then it's real when you're looking at it.
Right. I think it was both. It was, I didn't want to see it, so after a certain amount of time, it goes away, or you believe it goes away, so it's not real.
Yeah.
So it was hard to dig deep, really deep. And I played out scenarios where, let's say I was not considerate of someone. I had to play out a scenario and find that in my mind and say, okay, you know what? I wasn't considerate of that person at all, or I
Right.
didn't care. And when I played it out in my mind and I got that visual, then I can write it on paper because it's true.
Right. So and again, like a valuable lesson, taking that negative, but like figuring out how to make that into a positive, and then hopefully canceling it out on one side and moving it to the other, and getting that momentum and moving forward. But I have a lot of sympathy for individuals that they're just not able to do that, right? I mean, the last 18 months has been an incredible strain on so many people who lost so much, and whether they took it for granted, the previous years, decades, however long it was in their own careers, it was just, it was a devastating blow to many in the first half of last year, where so many lost so much so quickly. So like the whole mental health thing is really something that I've been trying to work on, I suppose, really. And I hope that there are many out there that recognize, if they're struggling, to put the hand up and say, look, fuck this, I am struggling. Like I really do need, some help and some assistance. I'm not going to suggest that you were ever in that kind of place, but like, is that something that you can relate to in a way?
Yes, but the problem was there's nobody to reach out to. So it's
Right.
losing things is definitely hard. But hopefully you have that network of people that can help you out and put you back on your feet. When you're sentenced to prison, you're alone, and there's nothing you
Yeah.
can do but wait that time out. So instead of me waiting that time out, I changed my perception of time, and I felt like I was running out of time. So I had so much to do, so in so little time. And I think you can do the same thing when you lose so much and you lose everything to say, you know what? I had that stuff, but I didn't really need those things. Let me see what I really need. Where's the core? What makes me happy?
Yeah.
Because when you're that family that you have, that's what you really need. All that material stuff and finance money, it doesn't really mean anything if you don't have that family.
Yeah.
Because you
Yeah.
do the reverse, have a lot of money and lose your family. You don't want that money. There's no value to it.
No, 100%. No, I couldn't agree with you more there. Yeah, I think I've been incredibly lucky to at least have friends and family around me that if there was ever a dark day, if you will, that I could at least pick up the phone and I could turn to somebody. I would not to make this about me, because this is about you, but certainly those early days of starting this business, I think there was some euphoric times because it's all exciting, it's new, but then you're kind of doubting yourself, or I was doubting myself, like, is this going to work? Like, can this work? And so you kind of like have this peak, and then you have this valley as well. And I'm happy that today, here we are, like over a year on, there's definitely more peaks than there are valleys. And those valleys, they happen, but it's inevitable that there's going to be a day where you feel like it's not working, and you wonder like what to do. But then the next day is a different day, and you can just by simply sleeping on it overnight. For me, at least, I often wake up in the morning with a different frame of mind, and then just coming back to that windshield and rearview mirror perspective that we talked about earlier. Like, yesterday's done, as we say in London. Like, today's news is tomorrow's chip paper. So like it's done, right? And it's forgotten, like, and just move on. Let's focus on it again. Let's reset, if you will. So, all right, my friend. Well, listen, I certainly appreciate you not only taking the time out today to jump on, but also to be so open and honest about your past, and certainly about where you want to take the business over the course of the next couple of years or so. So I wish you all the best for that. And I look forward to staying in touch with you as well.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna use your company for my international payments, so you'll be hearing from me.
I'd be disappointed if you didn't.
I appreciate that. Now the pressure's on.
Now I have to perform. Exactly. Well,
Yeah.
You've just given me some motivation to get out of bed tomorrow, so I appreciate that.
That's good. You cut your hair, you're looking good.
Thanks, man. That's it. Yeah, my doctors have assured me it will grow back at some stage.
Yeah, I don't know what stage that is.
If it does come back, it's just going to be grey. So not that that's a problem. I'm not anti-greyist. Anyway, listen, thanks again, and good luck, and we'll stay in touch.
All right, Mark, thank you so much.
Thanks, man. Be safe.